Hey guys, it's Rachel with Mr. Nola's Glitter. How you doing today? Today I have a really cool tutorial to show you guys. We did a few different things, and so I'm going to show you how we created a couple cool sets of coasters. These are super pretty. Check out the shine, okay? We did this set as well for all you flower plant lovers. I can kill grass, so that's about it. And then also we made this super cool hat. So, all right, so let's show you how we did it, okay? Okay, so this is what we're going to use today to do all of these. So for this set of coasters, we used the Marabou neon colors. So we had the neon orange, neon yellow, neon pink. For this set, we used the Tim Holtz. I used limeade and clover. You're going to need some vinyl stencil cutouts. I just used regular vinyl, cut them out, and whatever shape, pattern, whatever you want. So I didn't have any left over for this one, but I did have one flower left over from this one. You're going to need these cool tiles. You can pick these up at Lowe's, Home Depot, what have you. They're ceramic 4x4 tiles. You don't have to use this size. I don't know if this matters, but there's the barcode or whatever. So we picked up a box of these, probably around $20, and we got, I don't know, 100 tiles in there or something. Super cool to have around to play around. We are using our squeegee to make sure that the vinyl is stuck to all the things. I have a roll of painter's tape. You can use whatever color, whatever size you have. I used these oil-based paint markers. You can get them Hobby Lobby, Amazon, wherever you get your paint markers. And oil-based is the best, in my opinion. And to finish them off, of course, we have the Mr. Nola's Glitter glass coat, okay? To me, this is the very most important part, but I may be biased a little bit, okay? And then we used our Mr. Nola's Glitter, less, better, more glitter airbrush gun, okay? So let's get down to business. The first thing I did was found a design that I liked in the Silhouette Studio, and I placed them on my mat, and I'm cutting out the stencil part. I found some cool flowers and a really cool greenery leaf thing. Then we are going to do the dreaded weeding. This is the worst part of any project, in my opinion, is weeding. I know there are some people out there that love the weeding, but girl, I don't like this part. And it doesn't help that I usually have to cut my design 11 billion times because something goes wrong, I throw a part away, something doesn't cut right, and it literally drives me bananas. But I was able to get a bunch of flowers weeded, and I had some stars. I'm going to work on another project for that, so might as well kill two birds with one stone. So you will see me weeding. The tool that I'm using, I do not recommend. I got it at the Dollar Tree, and it was basically pointless. I couldn't find my weeding pin. Okay, so that's not true. I know where my weeding pin was. I was loaning it to Leslie while she was here, and I figured that she deserved to use the better one. So before you ask, that's where I got it. This is supposed to be a paper piercing tool. It wasn't very sharp, and it basically struggled with it the whole entire time. But you will see me weeding, and then I cut some more and weeded some more. So this is a whole lot of weeding, but I won't bore you with all of that. Now for the fun part, I placed the cut vinyl of the flowers on these 4 coasters. I really didn't want them to match and be all the same, so I put them different ways. I cut some off, I put some big ones, I put some small ones. So that's what I like about coasters. You can really make them artistic and they don't have to be perfect. So you don't have to worry about the same image over and over and over. It's more like little mini pieces of art. So I really like to make them. So here you're going to see me struggling with the extra sticky transfer tape that I used. 10 out of 10, do not recommend to do that. So find you a really good transfer tape. I can't remember which one this one was, but it was not my favorite. So I'm on the struggle bus here. So yeah, but I think I really like the placement. There's a couple oopsies, but it doesn't matter. As long as you press your vinyl down into your project, it's really not going to matter for the next part, because this vinyl is not going to stay there. You're using this as a stencil pretty much. So place them wherever you want, use whatever shapes you want. There's no right, no wrong. Put a little bit, put a lot, just do your thing, girl. So you remember when I told you that I had to cut this design a few times? This is another time that I cut it. So the first vinyl that I used, the transfer tape was super mega sticky, so it wouldn't stick on my hat. So I had to recut all of these again, reread them all the way again, but you'll see why. We're going to use this vinyl on our hat when we do our hat. Okay, now that all of these are cut out, I put my transfer tape on them and I'm randomly placing them all over my hat. I don't want it super full, but I just kind of want it to match the tile idea in my head. So I'm just using my little squeegee thingamadoodle to make sure it's pressed on the hat. Now these are not going to stick to your hat like super sticky like you were putting it on a flat surface. They are going to be lightly on your hat, so just be careful when you're taking your transfer tape off. It's going to be difficult, but I promise they're not going to stay on your hat, so you don't need it to be perfect. You just need it to create that void when you put the airbrush ink over the top of it. Now here comes the fun part. We are going to use our airbrush gun and we are going to use the same alcohol inks that we are going to use on our coasters on our hats. So most of you will say, oh my gosh, are alcohol inks permanent? Have you ever spilled alcohol inks on your clothes? Yes ma'am, you cannot get them out. We will take an extra step to seal this hat once we're completely done with it, to keep it clean and easy to clean up afterwards, but yes, alcohol inks are permanent. So here I start with my lightest color. That's the one I like to work with. That way I don't have to clean my brush out in between uses. I'm randomly spraying the yellow. I admit I have no idea what I was doing when I started this. This was a whim. So I just sprayed until I liked it and then I moved on to the next color. All right, and now I am finished, and now I'm removing my vinyl stencil, and it is revealing the white underneath, and I think it looks pretty cool. Perfect for the beach, laying out at the pool, when you're having a bad hair day, whatever you want, there you have it. Okay, now moving on to the tiles. This was the easy breezy part. We have already put our vinyl down on our tiles. I did mine randomly. You could do them whatever you want. And I am going to start with the opposite end because I used pink last in my gun when I did the hat. So I wanted to roll with that. So I'm using pink first, and I am just going to create this cool ombre. These are super popular summer colors, and Marabou does not disappoint when it comes down to the neon. So you'll see me, I just have them on a piece of paper, and I'm just going to ombre them. I'm going to do the pink first, and then I will move down to the orange and finish it off with the yellow. So you can do as much or as little color as you want. You can make them lighter, you can make them darker. I wanted mine pretty dark because I really wanted that pop. If you see here, I am concentrating on the sides as well, but I did not end up leaving the sides raw or bare. I'm going to show you how I finished them off. So you don't really have to worry about the sides if that's what you're going to do as well. Just spray and do whatever colors you want. You don't have to do an ombre for sure. You could have sprayed each one of these flowers with a different color. The possibilities are endless. So this is, they're super easy and super forgiving. If you don't like what you see, simply take a wet paper towel wetted with alcohol and wipe them off and start over. The cool thing about working with alcohol inks in an airbrush gun is that they dry super quick. So if you were going to do this with regular paint, you would have to wait for the paint to dry or whatnot. So alcohol inks are super fast to dry. So now I'm going to remove the vinyl that I laid down before we sprayed. If you like the look like this, by all means, keep your vinyl on it. I kind of liked the look of it, but I really was interested in seeing the contrast of the white under the ink, and I really wanted it to match my hat. So I went ahead and removed the vinyl from all of my tiles, and you will see that it matches the hat really good. For this second set of tiles, I found this leaf that had a vein running through the center of it. So I am leaving it whole. I'm just going to weed off the outside square, and I'm not going to weed anything else out. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm taking off the outside square, because after I take off the outside square, I am going to place these on my tile. And I'm going to place the whole thing so it just looks like a black square that's going over my tile, and I'm going to show you the reason why in just 1 second. So once I have my black square placed in the center of my tile, or as center as I could get them without measuring it, I'm going to go ahead and use blue painter's tape and make sure that there is no other parts of the tile exposed, because I don't want anything else to get ink on it. So I'm going to take my time and tape off all 4 of these squares. Now that I have everything taped off that I do not want ink on, I am going to start by removing the vein out of each one of these tiles. So this is the center part of the leaf, and I'm doing it this way because I want this part to be super dark. So I am going to work from the darkest color to the lightest color when I'm using the airbrush and I'm doing multiple colors on the same image. So I'm going to start with my darkest ink, and that is Clover, and I'm going to spray those veins and make sure they're super, super dark, because the next color that I'm going to use is going to be lighter. It's going to be the limeade. So you'll see when you put the lighter color over the darker color, it gives it that contrast that you need. After I've finished this, I do go back and add just a little bit of dark ink around the edges without cleaning out my brush, so it gives it some kind of shadows. Now it's time for the finishing touches on our coasters before we put them under epoxy. I was going to do some other designs on the top of these with the markers, but I really decided that the design by itself is beautiful, and I really wanted it to match the hat and make a whole set. So here you're going to see me getting the markers together, trying to get the ink to come out, having technical difficulties, but then I'm going to take this oil-based paint marker and I'm going to color all the sides black to kind of make them really tie in together and kind of give it a finished look before I put the epoxy over the top. Once I'm done painting my edges and adding all the final details and designs to the top of my coasters, I am going to tape off the back of each one. This is not necessarily something that you have to do. This is a personal preference for me, because once I epoxy, I let the epoxy run down the sides and it creates drips at the bottom. So I find when I tape it off that it's easier to get those excess drips off to give you a more finished piece. Now it's time for epoxy. So this is when you are really going to see these tiles come to life. I think epoxy brings out such beautiful tones of the alcohol inks and everything. It just really brings your piece to looking like, oh my gosh, I love this, to oh my gosh, I love this. So here you see me mixing. I'm using the Mr. Nola's Glitter Glass Coat Epoxy. And if you notice, I do not mix very slowly. It's just the way that I've always done things, and it's just the way it is. I am going to add a little bit of pectoral punch to this epoxy just to give it a light sparkle. I didn't want a whole bunch because I don't want the glitter to take away from the design. So I just basically tapped the lid of the glitter into the top of my epoxy, and you see it's not a lot, it's just a little bit. So mixing, and then we will go ahead and pour over our coasters. I have my coasters sitting up on a couple of disposable glasses. You want them up off the table. You don't want them flat because you really want the epoxy to roll off the edges of these coasters, giving them a nice smooth, like beveled edge. So I am just adding a little bit to the center of each one. I'm gonna take my popsicle stick and smoosh it to the edge just to make sure that it gets covered everywhere. And also, because I use these oil-based markers, I want to really make sure to take the time and make sure each corner is covered with that epoxy, because sometimes if you use a lot of the the oil-based markers, it does repel a little bit. But if you just take the little time to really brush, or I say brush, but you're using a stick, the epoxy on the edges, you don't run into that problem. So I'm just going to spread it over every single thing to make sure everything is covered, and then I'm going to come back and put a little bit more in the center so it'll just like waterfall over the edges here. The last thing I will do before I leave these alone is I'm going to take my torch and I'm going to torch the bubbles from the top of these. I really wanted to make sure these were crystal clear. The bubbles do work themselves out, but I wanted to make sure that there was absolutely no bubbles. I wanted a perfect finish. So the next morning, once these are dry, I am going to remove the tape off the back. You can see that it is a lot of work to take the tape off, but I think the payoff is really nice. So you have something that you can get all of these drips and stuff off. I'm sorry I'm not in screen right here. I noticed it in just a second, and then I moved it over so where you can actually see what I'm doing. So just be careful when you're using your X-Acto knife. You could also use your heat gun and heat these up and it would come off super easy, but I left my heat gun at the warehouse, so I didn't have it today. So I just had to work a little bit harder to get these off. So to finish these off, I will add a piece of felt off to the whole back of them, or I will add little felt or cork bottoms. And there you have it. This is our completed set. So my hat and my coasters match, and so does my cute little purse. And here is a close-up view. You can see the sparkle in them. You can see the shine on it. The hat is super perfect. I love it. It's perfect for summer. These are some other details that I added to the leaves, and then I stepped up my prop game. So I've seen a lot of people that use a lot of props when they're doing pictures, and I have to admit it was kind of a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I think they turned out really cute. So thank you guys for hanging out, and I hope you learned something, and I can't wait to see what you guys create. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Come check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the places that you can normally find everyone. We are there, and we hope to see you too. Talk to you soon. Bye.